So, hello everyone. We are going to react to the GeographyNow Hungary episode because I'm Hungarian and I want to see if I can add or remove something to this. So let's start.
Have you ever had a strange neighbor that moved into your block with no relatives around, had a weird accent, and had weird decorations posted all over their yard? Yeah, that's basically Hungary.
Yes, we can all
It's
agree.
time to learn geography.
Now! Everybody say hi to my friend Nick! You may have recognized him as the charming scientist from America's Got Talent. Say hi, Nick.
What's up, team?
Hey, so I knew Nick before all that stuff, and I collabed with him on his YouTube channel, Nickopedia, a while back. Check it out, subscribe to his channel if you want.
The video we did was really good. It was like micro to macro. It was a really sciencey concept. I thought it turned out great.
So, the cool thing is, Nick is actually part Hungarian. He's super proud of it. He's been to Hungary, so today he's gonna co-host with me.
Question, is there anything that I should know before we start?
Yeah, basically just don't be more likable than me or have better abs and you'll be fine.
I won't say anything.
Hey, Nick!
Yeah?
Hungary is so Eastern European, isn't it?
No.
Yeah!
No.
Yeah, they hate it when you say that. And actually, Hungary is a landlocked country located in Central Europe, surrounded by 7 countries. The nation is divided into 19 counties, whereas the capital Budapest acts as a separate administrative entity. The largest cities are, of course, Budapest, Debrecen, and Szeged. However, the busiest airports are Budapest.
Yes. First up, first of all, it's not Szeged, it's more of Szeged. And in Budapest, it's not S, it's Esh. So it's Budapest, not Budapest. But besides, it was perfect.
Debrecen and Győr International.
No, Győr, not Győr or whatever he said.
Oh, you totally just took the animation narration.
Yes, I did.
I like this guy. Now, you know me. I love border disputes, anomalies, and territorial confusion. And although today Hungary actually doesn't really have any of
Yes,
those, the
we
interesting
have.
thing is that Hungarians like to claim that they are surrounded by
added.
themselves due to the fact that there are high concentrated areas of Hungarians that live outside of Hungary and neighboring nations. This is because before World War I, Hungary was like a lot bigger and had a kingdom that spanned all the way from the Croatian coast to a large chunk of what is now Western Romania.
After World War I, the Treaty of Trianon cut up over 70% of the land previously held by Hungary and ceded it to its neighboring states, which effectively cut off about a third of ethnic Hungarians still living in those areas. Some of
Okay, I'm gonna go back because I want to show something on the map. So basically this area is called Transylvania or Erdély in Hungarian. And yeah, most of the Hungarians think that Romanians stole that from us. That's the reason most Hungarian people are angry at Romanians or hate them. And many people who live in this area still speak Hungarian and still are partly or completely Hungarian. And they have traditions. They have an own alphabet which doesn't connect in any way to the Latin alphabet. It's called the Rovásírás. And yes, that's it.
effectively cut off about a third of ethnic Hungarians still living in those areas. Some of the largest concentrations are found in what is today the southern regions of Slovakia and CK peoples in the central Transylvania regions of Romania.
By the way, Nick, fun side note, the comedian Louis C.K. is actually part Hungarian,
Yeah, I
but the
heard
CK
that.
part isn't his initials, but the pronunciation derived from CK.
I get it.
Otherwise, the country
Yeah,
is
yes.
teeming with notable sites and landmarks such as St. Stephen's Basilica
There's also Buda Castle,
and the Visgard Royal Castle.
Dios
No, Visegrad. And yeah, it's near the Slovakian border, and it was a capital city during the 1400s maybe, during King Mátyás. And it prospered. I mean, there were wine fountains from the hill, you know. They put up a winery on the top of the hill, and the wine came down, and there was a fountain in the castle. It was very fancy.
Good and Eger Castle.
the tomb,
There's
Sorry.
also Buda Castle,
and the Visgard Royal Castle,
Dioskur and Eger Castle,
the tomb,
It's pronounced Diosgyőr and Eger. But yes, Hungary has lots of castles, but most of them are partly or completely in ruins because well, they were sieged or didn't get good care until the modern times.
tomb of Gul Baba,
Memento Park,
the Cave Church,
the Citadella,
the Budapest Time Wheel,
the Bokod floating houses,
the Gorsum Ancient Ruins,
Yes,
and
I-
the country's most
I actually live close to the Gorzium ruins. It's like 2 or 4 villages away.
iconic building, the Hungarian Parliament.
Yes.
Nick, you've been to Hungary. What do you recommend?
Definitely go to the geothermal baths.
Geothermal baths.
Super cool.
Speaking of
Yes.
geothermal,
So I'm gonna stop here because I have something very important to say. There's so many geothermal baths in Budapest that they call it the geothermal capital of the world. And Hungary has lots of water underground, but we don't really use it, and that's bad because we have lots of water stored underneath the surface, which we could easily access and export it, but we don't do it, which is sad.
activity. The more we progress through this episode, the more you're going to kind of see how incredibly distinct and set apart Hungary is from the rest of Europe.
For one, most of the entire country lies on the Pannonian Basin, sometimes called the Great Hungarian Plain.
Yes, it's called the Alföld in Hungarian, and interestingly, as you can see, this is very flat, and this region is very flat too. So it's called the Kisalföld, or the small plain, which it doesn't have any connection. It's just a name that's similar.
Nestled between the Carpathian Mountains and the Dinaric Alps, and the Balkan Mountains on every side.
So basically, Hungary is a bowl. Yes, I know. Hungary, bowl, the pun possibilities are endless, but we don't got time for that. No puns this time.
Goulash in the bowl of Hungary. Only about 2% of the country, mostly in the north, is at 300 or more meters above sea level, and the rest is mostly flat in the largest grassland in Europe, the Hortobol.
Otherwise, the two main...
Again, it's pronounced Hortobágy, but besides, pretty nice.
The largest rivers, the Danube and the Tisza, are like the lifelines of Hungary as they travel north to south. Just to skip away, the largest lake...
I'm stopping here, so as you could see, this is...
The
sorry.
Tisza are like the life...
Yes, so this is river Tisza, which they say is the most Hungarian river, because when Hungary was big, as we could see in the big Hungary image, you know, when I showed where Transylvania was. So when it was the Kingdom of Hungary, Tisza founded and ended inside Hungary, so it was completely inside Hungary. That's why they say it's the most Hungarian river. And you know, Danube starts in somewhere around that direction in Germany, and it ends up being in the Black Sea. So
lines of
It's
Hungary
not
as they
very
travel north
Hungarian.
to south. Just to skip away, the largest lake in all of Central Europe, Lake Balaton, sometimes
yes,
referred to as
Lake Balaton, interesting. They don't really say lake before it, so the word for lake in Hungarian is tó, but we don't really use that like Balaton tó or tó Balaton, no. It's just Balaton without anything. And cool fun fact about it, that it is so shallow, shallow, it's so shallow that if it would be a puddle, it would be so shallow that you wouldn't even see it. I mean, it's very big in sideways and north to south, but it's mostly 2 or 3 meters deep. It has the deepest point here, 11 meters, which isn't too much. But it's beautiful. Yes.
Hungarian Sea. The strange thing about Hungary, though, would have to be the geothermal springs that can be found everywhere.
Yes.
Budapest having more thermal springs than any other capital in the world.
Yes.
Nick, you're a sciencey type of guy. Tell them why there's hot springs in Hungary.
Sure. It's strange because there are no direct fault lines or rifts that pass through Hungary. However, the area lies on a thermal basin not too far from the Eurasian plate that harbors geothermal activity, much like Yellowstone National Park in the US.
So what you're saying, Nick, is you don't need to be on a fault line to have geothermal activity, right?
Yes, but most distant spots from activity are not too far from a fault line. Nonetheless, it's kind of like a volcanic blister on Earth.
I learned something.
Otherwise, the largest national park, Buk, has eroded limestone
It's called Bük.
karst formations, and nearby, just to the west, you can find the tallest mountain, Kekes, only about 1,000
Kékes.
meters high.
Hungary has some of the highest quality soil in all of Europe, with over 51% arable land.
It allows them to grow a multitude of crops, their favorite one being paprika or pepper.
Although popular all over the Balkans, paprika is always affiliated with Hungary and Hungarian cuisine. They put it on literally everything. Chicken, fish, soup, sausage, even cake.
I can confirm that. It's literally everywhere. You can't stop it from being spreaded.
Speaking of which, some of the top Hungarian dishes might include
Poppy seed rolls,
stuffed cabbage and peppers,
langos,
purkult,
kurtushkalats,
Kürtös kalács. Go on.
sour cherry soup,
and the national
It's called gyümölcsleves. It's more like fruit soup because it's not really just cherry. It has a peach, a cherry, sometimes apple in it, and we eat it with sour cream. So it's a bit interesting. Some prefer it cold even. So
dish everyone knows about, goulash, commonly pronounced goulash, which
yes, and one other thing, they forgot Wiener Schnitzel. You know, it's a kind of food which is kind of like fried chicken, but no, I can't really explain it. It's also known as an Austrian dish, and more people say it's Austrian, but it's not. And the meat soup. Everyone eats meat soup in Hungary. I think even more people eat meat soup in Hungary than goulash. Yes, that's it.
I ate at every Christmas.
and keep in mind, almost all these dishes we just mentioned have paprika in them. Speaking of which, I was told you are not Hungarian unless you love tururudi candy bars.
Can confirm again.
Torudi.
You love those?
Huge fan.
Oh, okay.
Huge.
Confirmed.
So that's that. Hungary's land makeup.
Now we reach the most strangest and most interesting part, the people. Hey, Nick.
Yeah?
Hungarians are such interesting Slavs, aren't they?
No, no.
And that, kids, is the number one thing to avoid saying to a Hungarian. First of all, the country has about 10 million people and has the
Again, stopping. Again, it's not really 10 million people. It's more like 9.4, 9.5, and you know, it's just a milestone to say your country has 10 million people. It has been in decline since the 1920s, so it's been just getting lower and lower since then.
largest linguistically isolated people group in Europe. Hey, man.
Yes, we are very isolated linguistically. Every country around us is Slavic or German or a Romantic language. And we are part of the Finnish-Ugaric language family, I think, maybe. I don't really know the word for it in English. So we are very isolated. Most the languages which are closer, the closest to us, are Finnish and some isolated languages in the Ural Mountains in Russia. These are tribal languages, of course. So yes.
Good dude.
Ah, never better. Now this is where things get a little tricky because, like we said in the Czech Republic, or Czechia episode, the Hungarian census doesn't mandate racial identification upon registration. So what the report says might be a little different from what the actual numbers are, but what it does say, about 86% of the country is ethnically Hungarian, somewhere around 5% are Romani or Gypsy, and the rest are kind of unspecified. It's speculated...
Again, stopping. Yes, so in Hungary, as you could see, there was this
around 5% are
smaller
Romani.
thing called Romas. So they are the biggest ethnicity in Hungary, and they are so significant that we even have a kind of N-word for them. But I won't say that. And yeah, there are many stereotypes about them, how they steal things, and how they like metals, and they steal it from you and they sell it on the market. But these stereotypes aren't true in most of the time, but they steal as much as the normal other Hungarians. So
Or Gypsy, and the rest are kind of unspecified. It's speculated, though, that the unspecified group is most likely made up of Slovaks, Romanians, Germans, Serbs, Poles, and why not, a few Greeks, Turks, Armenians, and probably some more Gypsies.
Also, they use the Hungarian forint, not the euro, despite being in the eurozone.
yes, we are proud of it, but we shouldn't. The forint has been inflating since August 2021. I can't say really anything about it, so just go on.
Use the Type C outlet, and they drive on the right side of the road.
Now, let's get some stuff straight. Who exactly are the Hungarians?
For one, Hungarians have roots that are technically not even originally from Europe.
According to legend, there were two brothers, Magor and Hunor. Hunor was the father of the Huns, Magor was the father of the Hungarians.
Firstly, they switched this up, so the J sound is made by a G and a Y. But I'll explain in another video if we have time for it, or maybe find another video which explains the Hungarian language. Yes.
Or the Magyar people. And they were maybe both sons of the Tower of Babel guy from the Bible. This is just what the story claims.
The Huns came in and took over the area in the 5th century, but were eventually expelled.
After the Roman Empire and Germanic tribe stuff, yada yada yada, the Magyar tribes came in around the 9th century. From what most historians speculate, the Central Asian...
Yes, and I don't know if you remember, but the people who are Hungarian and live in Transylvania are called Székelys, or they are an ethnic group besides other ones, and they are called Székelys because székelni means to guard or to be at somewhere in Hungarian, or it means that too. It means chair, away from that, or mostly. But the name Székely comes from the legend that when the Huns came in the 5th century, they left the Székelys here to guard them, to guard their back, to prevent Slavic tribes from attacking. And so the Huns died out, and in came the Magyars in the 7th century, sorry, 9th century, and the Székelys were still there. So they earned a huge reputation by that, and they remained Székelys, so that's where the name comes from.
Steppe regions far east past the Ural Mountains in Russia. It is believed they came in to reclaim the lost land of their cousins.
This guy unified the tribes, and thus the first proto...
From here...
Came in to reclaim the lost land of their cousins.
This guy unified...
a mark misses from here, so it's an A too. It's called Arpad, and his Arpad was there, or Arpad, the leader. So yeah.
The tribes, and thus the first
He's the one
proto-Hungarian
of the
state was born from outsiders from Asia.
So Nick, that
known
means you might have some
people
Central Asian
in
blood in
Hungary.
you.
Nice. Does that mean I get a free pass to make some Asian jokes?
You get to make light Asian jokes at the expense of your Hungarian heritage.
What do you call a 5th century Central Asian guy named Gary?
What?
Hungary.
After the Proto-Hungarian state was established, history kind of went like this.
Kings.
Christianity,
Mongols attacked twice.
Turks,
Habsburgs.
1848 Revolution,
Empire with Austria.
World War I Treaty of Trianon.
World War II, join the Axis.
Bad idea.
Soviets come in and bam! Eastern Bloc communism.
1956 Revolution.
Soviets retaliate.
Bam! Soft communism.
1980, end of communism. And finally, the EU.
Done!
The Hungarian language.
Could say a lot of things about it, but won't because that cost a lot of time. So just gonna accept it.
Language is strange. The only two relatives that exist are the Hanti and Mansi languages, found in the Hanti-Mansi Autonomous Okrug, Far East
Yes, so these were the ones that I mentioned earlier.
Pass Mountains in Russia.
Now, because this place was the birthplace of all Uralic languages, that means it's possible that the Finns and Estonians might be
Oh, yeah,
far
and I
off
left
distant
out
cousins of the
Estonia.
Hungarians. But it's so far off and removed that it's kind of like that one black guy that shows up at your family reunion that you have no idea how you're related to. I actually have two of those. What up, Charlie and Andre?
Eventually, the people developed Hungarian Turanism in the 19th and 20th centuries as a counter-movement against the domineering pan-German and pan-Slav cultures, or just Europeans in general, that surrounded them.
It all had to do with embracing their identity that tied them with Central Asia. They take it pretty seriously. Some places even use the ancient...
So yes, this is the ancient Hungarian writing, or the rovásírás, and it's interesting because you read it backwards. So this is the letter V, and it has two K's. One K if you are writing a K inside a word, and one K if the K is at an end of the word. And this is two different symbols.
Hungarian robas or runic script on city billboards.
Yeah.
In
Runic
2007, they
script.
even started the Kurultai, an event that invites Central Asian steppe nomadic peoples in the first week of August with the intention to bind closer with their far-off distant cultural relatives.
People from Mongolia to Uzbekistan, even South Korea show up every year and participate.
Otherwise, Hungarian culture in itself today is saturated with unique customs and tradition.
There are too many to mention, but some universal ones include splashing women with water on Easter Monday,
Yes, very funny.
Or how on St. Nicholas Day, kids put out their boots to get gifts.
Yes, this is another interesting story, because in most regions of the world, people get gifts from Santa Claus on the 24th or the 25th of December. But in Hungary, the Santa Claus, or as known in Hungary, the Mikulás, comes at the 6th of December, and at the eve of the 24th, in the evening, Jesus comes, or the baby Jesus, and he brings the Christmas gifts, and that is very interesting. I don't know if any other country has this tradition, but yes, it's interesting.
or how they throw lentils at each other on New Year's,
Don't forget the Busho Mask Festival.
or how a bride will get kidnapped at her wedding and the groom has to perform a
I don't think this image is from Hungary.
task to get her back.
Ah, the kidnappings, they're so beautiful.
Yeah, just wait till we get to the Kyrgyzstan episode. One sport Hungarians love is water polo. They have the best performance at the World
Yes,
Water Polo
yes.
Cup. Even though they are landlocked, they are amazing in the water.
We are.
In the water and on ice, I would say. We also have very nice hockey teams, and speed skating competence are very good too.
We're like ducks. Music has always played a huge role in Hungary since classic times to the modern Sziget Festival, one of the largest and most popular in all of Europe.
Otherwise, some notable people of Hungarian descent might include people like
Rubik Erno,
Viktor Orban,
Biro Laszlo,
Robert Capa,
Harry Houdini,
John Van Noy,
I won't go into the pronunciation of these. They were 99% correct.
Raymond,
Maria Turkis,
Zsa
Telkes, this is completely mispronounced.
Gabor.
Bela Lugosi,
Although the Romanians might claim him too, as well as numerous scientists, artists, musicians, and athletes.
Yes, about this. So we have 13 Nobel Prize winners, but only one or maybe two, I don't remember, got a Nobel Prize for what he done in Hungary. So most of these Nobel Prize winners got their Nobel Prizes after they left Hungary. For example, Szilárd Leo or Leo Szilárd, who helped in developing the nuclear bomb. But he didn't do it in Hungary. He went out to America and did it there.
Scientist, right here. Scientist.
All right, Nick, ready to close this down with one more segment. Let's do it!
The friend zone!
Now, Hungary might have an isolated culture, but definitely not an isolated social status.
Definitely a popular kid.
Yeah. First of all, they like to call Austria their brother-in-law, because even though things got ugly a few times, and yes, the Habsburgs did try to kind of Germanize them, so much history and cooperation has linked these two. They even teamed up and opened their borders to East Germany to help the people escape to the west side during Cold War time.
Yes, there's an interesting tradition in Hungary where you can't do cheers with beer, they say, because they mentioned the Independence War of 1848, and so the Austrians called in the Russians and crushed the Hungarians together. So we lost it. And legend says that when the Hungarians were defeated, the Austrians drank beer and they clanked their bottles, and so that's a tradition, and Hungarians don't do that, or at least there's a saying that it was only in power for 150 years, so it disappeared in 1998, but most of the people still don't clank their bottles with beer.
Now, despite the Ottoman times, Turkey is actually kind of the wild card friend that you wouldn't expect. Not only because they have distant technical ancestral lines, but Turkey also left its mark by leaving various historical sites and buildings in Hungary. They also take part in the Kurultai, and trade is cordial.
Finland and Estonia are kind of like the new, curious, I guess maybe we're related cousins. They never really thought about each other until just a few centuries ago. They encounter maybe once a year and just kind of nod with a small smirk when they're in the presence of each other. Now, when it comes to their best friend, Nick, I've heard a lot of things from other Hungarians. Who do you think is the best friend of Hungary?
Paprika.
Countries.
Oh! Poland!
Yes!
They
Yes,
even
can
have a
confirm.
Polish-Hungarian Friendship Day on March 23rd. Both countries have shared ties since the Middle Ages. Their rulers often intermarried and exchanged headship. They fought numerous battles together side by side, supported each other's revolutions, struggled together under Soviets, and came out together even closer than ever.
Yes, and I'm stopping again. So there was this interesting exchange of hospitality. So in the Second World War, there was, in Poland there were a lot of Jews. And the Germans collected them into death camps and so on. And Hungary helped the escaped Jews go into Austria, I think, or maybe Romania, I'm not sure, but we helped the escaped prisoners. And during the 1956 revolution against the Soviets, the Polish people tried to help us with first aid kits and things like that. So, yeah.
In conclusion,
That's
pretty much
quite
all
cool.
of Europe has some kind of consistency in terms of land regions and people groups, but then you get this strange geothermal basin with Central Asian descended weird talking people that kind of just came out of nowhere who would eventually build an identity and story that would last through the ages.
Stay tuned! Iceland is coming up.
Yeah, so it's the end of this video. Yeah, it was generally a good video. It described Hungary very well. The history part was a bit blank, and they left out some major events from the Hungarian history. And I had some problems with the pronunciation sometimes, and the writing, of course. They sometimes left out accents. I'm a bit sad about that, but overall it was good. I recommend it, and overall I recommend this channel. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and goodbye.